5 minutes after the hour of 6 a.m., it's Friday, March 15th, 2019, the Ides of March. Temperatures 19 degrees outside. Welcome to the KMMS Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. Shane and Tom on the line with me from Vancouver, British Columbia. He's 20% man, 20% amazing, 20% football, 20% Renaissance man, 20% researcher. I don't know. Is that enough?
I'm the junkyard dog.
The boy does it all. He does it all. Well, hey, it's finally Friday, Shane, and it is the Ides of March, the 15th of March. Yeah.
15th of March, 44 BC.
Yep.
Julius Caesar was stabbed in the Senate, those dastardly dudes.
Boy, they were mean people, weren't they? What'd they say when they were stabbing him? You get the point, Julie?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's sad because that was the end of the Republic.
Yeah.
And, it became a dictatorship after that. And we know the rest of the story.
Yep, that's for sure. Well, guess what, Shane? Warm weather is on the way, believe it or not. Finally. We're at 30.
Well, you keep telling promises. Oh, wait, promises made, promises kept.
Yeah, right. Well, I don't know. 35 degrees, supposed to be our high today. Partly cloudy, overnight low of 12. 37 tomorrow, overnight low of 16. And then all the way up to 38. We're just going up a degree a day, I guess. Sunday will be mostly cloudy, but 38 degrees, 20 the overnight low. And then back down to 37 on Monday. But then all the way up to 41 on Tuesday and sunny, and 45 on Wednesday and mostly sunny, and 48 on Thursday and partly cloudy. So 3 days in the 40s. Man, that's going to be like a summer vacation somewhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Temperatures around the area. Livingston is 24 degrees right now. Manhattan is 11. Three Forks is 15. Gallatin Gateway's 19, Ennis is 19, Big Sky is 15, and at the airport in Belgrade, it is 13 degrees currently, and at our lavishly appointed downtown studios, it is 19 degrees outside.
There you go, buddy.
We got it, man. We got it. All right, on this day in history, Shane, all kinds of stuff happened. We mentioned Julius Caesar, of course, 44 BC. The boy got it from Brutus and Cassius and others. And
it was a gang. It was a gang. The home. Yeah, the homies in the gang.
Yep, there you are. Yeah, there's a. It was the what was it? MS 44.
Yeah, exactly.
44 BC.
Yeah,
there you are. I don't know.
And then Christopher Columbus.
What a guy!
He concluded his first voyage and returned back in 1493. Mm-hmm. He visited North America another 3 times and then still returned broke. He was Spain made him the governor. Didn't succeed at that very well.
Yeah,
wasn't much of an administrator.
Yeah. Well. Not a very nice guy from what everybody tells us. They don't want Christopher Columbus Day or anything like that anywhere, so I don't know. But
well, the thing is that all the islands of the Caribbean were populated by indigenous people, and within 100 years, in the 1500s, they were all wiped out by disease. It's a very sad story.
Yeah, that were brought from Yeah, they didn't have any disease there till it was brought by the explorers.
Exactly.
Yeah, 1767, the 7th president of the United States, Andrew Jackson. A lot of people think Andrew Jackson was the Donald Trump of his day. Was born in the Waxhaw settlement along the North Carolina-South Carolina border.
And, most famous as a general for the Battle of New Orleans.
Yep. And on the $20 bill, I believe.
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah. So, all right, 1820, Maine became the 23rd state in the Union. So
that's sort of important.
Yeah. 1913, President Woodrow Wilson met with about 100 reporters for the first formal presidential press conference, and they've been going downhill ever since.
you're, you're bad. You're so bad.
I know. In 1922, Sultan Fiad, whoever he was, proclaimed himself the first king of modern Egypt. 1922 on this date.
That's right. 1919, the American Legion was founded in Paris.
Yes. I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
1937. Yeah. What?
Go ahead.
1937, America's first hospital blood bank was opened in Cook County Hospital in Illinois.
Wow. I think within a year, the American Red Cross took over the program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And 1956, the Lerner and Loewen musical, one of my favorite, My Fair Lady, opened on Broadway.
Yep.
One of the longest running shows on Broadway. Huge.
Yeah. Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton were married on this date. It was her fifth marriage, his second, and then they divorced and got married again, didn't they?
Yeah, they were like my parents. My parents sort of took to that idea.
Yeah, divorced and married again?
Yeah, they met. Yeah, got divorced in 65, got married again in 67.
Okay, and
it didn't get any better. It only got worse.
Okay. 1972, The Godfather, Francis Ford Coppola's epic gangster movie based on the Mario Puzo novel, starring Marlon Brando and Al Pacino, premiered in New York City.
And importance of this show, it became its own genre because they made 3 movies. That was pretty remarkable.
And 2 of them, at least the first 2, won Academy Awards.
That's right.
For Best Picture. I don't know if that was the first time sequels had won, but it must have been one of the first time sequels had won.
There you go.
I don't know. 1944, during World War II, Allied bombers again raided German-held Monte Cassino. I guess it was later charged to Monte Carlo, huh?
Monte Cassino was a Catholic seminary and church on top of a mountain.
Wow.
And the Germans had taken it over, and it had a huge field of vision, 360, and they actually had to destroy the whole thing to get the Germans out. It was a horrific battle. It was one of the big ones. Aristotle Onassis died this day in 1975. The reason I bring him up is because very smart man. At the end of World War II, he went to the U.S. government and he bought over 65 Liberty ships from them at a huge discount to the cost of what they were purchased for or made for after World War II to start his shipping company. And that's how he became so wealthy, because of his great jump at an opportunity.
Yeah, took the initiative and ran with it.
That's right. And of course, he married Jacqueline Kennedy in 1968.
Mm-hmm.
Now, her brother-in-law, Ted Kennedy, negotiated the prenuptial agreement. And
between Onassis and Kennedy.
Yeah, and some people rumored, because it's never been released, but some people rumored that in it there was a qualification that she had to sleep with him at least once a week.
Wow. Okay. Jeez.
So the typical Greek, he's got to get
at least once a week. Okay.
Yeah, he's got to get his part or piece or whatever.
I was going to say, if you've seen this guy, you wonder what Jackie was thinking.
Money.
Well, she already had money.
Yeah, but she wanted the privacy of her children. And,
yeah, I guess
he had his own island in the Mediterranean.
I guess that's true.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. 1977, the U.S. House of Representatives began a 90-day closed-circuit test to determine the feasibility of showing its sessions on television. And they almost put the sleep people out of business.
2003, the World Health Organization of the UN issued a worldwide health alert for the respiratory illness SARS, severe acute respiratory syndrome.
Wow. 1985, the first internet domain name Symbolics.com was registered by the Symbolics Computer Corp of Massachusetts, 1985.
Wow.
First name.
You might remember this, 2008, a construction crane toppled in New York City, killing 7 people from a hurricane.
Wow.
Remember that
yeah, they did have a hurricane that made it all the way up to New York, didn't they? Well, they claim that a hurricane put out Washington when it was on fire during the Revolutionary War.
That's right. In the War of 1812, when the British burned it, a storm came ashore and put out
all the fires. 1999, an Amtrak train slammed into a steel-filled truck at a crossing in Bourbonnalis, wow, Illinois, killing 11 people. Bourbonnalis.
Harry James, an incredible trumpeter and band leader, died this day, or was born this day in 1916.
Wow.
So he was huge back in the day. Big band era.
Big band era, sure, yeah.
He had his own band, and wow, I love that music. The swing dancing, boy, you get me swing dancing, and I will win the heart of any woman. I can teach any woman how to swing dance in 3 steps. 3 steps, I can teach any woman how to swing dance.
All right, ladies, he'll be here, and when you come in July, August, somewhere in
July.
there. July. All right, ladies, maybe we'll have a dance contest with Shane here in the studio. We'll play some big
room.
Well, not enough room in the studio?
Sorry.
What do you need, a football field?
No, just a gym.
Oh, a gym, okay.
Oh, that won't work because the roof has collapsed on both of them.
Well, in July, we'll be outside, so you can dance in the parking lot.
Do you have speakers out? You should have a
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll do something.
No, we should put a speaker outside so people can hear the show.
We should. Yeah, I don't know why they don't do that, but
noise requirements pretty early in the morning.
Well, they were supposed to years ago move us across the hall where we'd have a window to the street, so people could wander by and look at us.
They didn't want you to have something to look at other than the job you're doing and the board you run.
All right. Well, guess what? Hey, we've got Montana News and Agriculture yet again today. We've got Headwaters Livestock Report, and let's get that started because we got to take care of our farmers, ranchers, truckers, and cab drivers and everybody else that's out there. So we'll be right back. 24 minutes after the hour of 6 a.m. It's Friday, March 15th, 2019. The temperature outside is 21 degrees, and, well, we're having a high old time here, Shane. What do you think?
Yeah, exactly. So much news. Oh, my gosh.
I know. Shane Matobin online from Vancouver, British Columbia, my co-host, and Tom Migueloff, your morning mayor. And you're on the KMMS Morning Soapbox, and... well, let's see. Romney Hall, Shane, we're finally going to get some money from the legislature. Looks like they passed House Bill 652. They're going to borrow. They're going to borrow $80 million to pay for statewide infrastructure projects, and $25 million of that is going to renovate Romney Hall at Montana State University. Their top building priority for the last 5 legislative sessions. Finally getting it done. So
that's right.
That's a little less money than the $32 million that Democratic Governor Steve Bullock proposed for in his $160 million infrastructure package. But a bill the Republican-dominated committee tabled before, but Representative Mike Hopkins, a Missoula Republican, said his substitute bill put together by a large working group would authorize MSU to spend an additional $7 million on Romney, which it would have to raise. So we're very grateful to see Romney on the table for $25 million. So there you are.
Wow, that was easy.
Yeah, only took 5 sessions every 2 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the Manley Road project out there, Bozeman businesses are suing the city over Manley Road repair taxes. As some of you know, out where the Map Brewing is, out on Manley Road on that curve, they want to improve that corner, put some sidewalks in, put more parking in, so people aren't on the street and whatever. A lot of accidents there. It's pretty nasty when we get snow and ice in that area. And but anyway, some of the folks are on the hook for big bucks, anywhere from $16,000 to $600,000 is their part of the chip-in. There are 12 property owners who together carried 13% of the district's cost. The other ones, when they moved into that area, gave up their rights to not pay that, so they're on the hook for it. But 12 of the 13%, well, 12 property owners, 13% of the district costs, they're going to. They largely argued that the city asked too much, that pushback fell well below Bozeman threshold to prevent the district. And during the project's February hearing, some public commentators told commissioners more people would have opposed the district if they weren't strapped by the waiver. So there you are.
And the righteous Eagleman, mayor of the Morning Soapbox, was right again. The bill to add 4th Gallatin County judge fails.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I don't know. $1 million for a judge. I don't know. That's pretty hefty. It's not the salary, but it's staff, it's the room, and all of the expenses that go along with running a courtroom and whatever. So they decided not happening.
Yeah. Well, you think that with the change in the marijuana, discussion, mm-hmm. and less judge and court time there. And then this whole revamp of your laws that Trump made, you'd think that there'd be more judge time.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. The city building, of course, will have plenty of room, but until they get the Law and Justice Center straightened out, and that'll be on the ballot this November, along with the $200 tax for...
Yeah, I know.
your additional property taxes. So I don't know. The Law and Justice Center, I think they need to call it something else if they want it to succeed.
That's right, and because today was the day that the American Legion was begun, we got to announce that Bozeman's American Legion is celebrating 100 years today.
Yep,
So
100 years
cool.
old today. Well, American
So
Legion's 100 years old. I don't know about the one in Bozeman, but anyway,
stop it. Stop at the American Legion today on the way home and buy a vet a drink.
there you go. That's a good idea. All right, we'll be back here shortly. We got Montana News, of course, Fox News, the Brooke Foster weather, Jacobus, all kinds of stuff. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after this. All right, it's 22 minutes before the top of the hour. Shane Matobin on the line with me from Vancouver, British Columbia. Tommy Galoff, your morning mayor, and you're on this Saturday. It's not Saturday. Is it Saturday, Shane? I don't think it's Saturday.
It will be soon.
It'll be Saturday tomorrow. It's finally Friday. KMMS Morning Soapbox from our text line. They better use their Romney money for gyms. I got two K-Mens of gyms out there. So, yeah, pretty good deal there. Absolutely. You use it for the gyms. All right. Well, the other thing we talked about the other day, Shane, the ACLU, they've got this guy in custody, and an inmate was being held at the Gallatin County Jail on an immigration and customs enforcement hold, and he has been turned over to immigration officials amid an ACLU lawsuit claiming his incarceration after posting bail was illegal. So the ACLU attorney said that Luis Soto Lopez was placed into federal custody Thursday afternoon after posting $500 bond in a local misdemeanor case, and he was initially requested a temporary restraining order that would have prevented Gallatin County Sheriff Brian Gookin from jailing him on an immigration hold if the posted bail in his misdemeanor case. So Gallatin County District Judge Holly Brown decided she couldn't rule on Soto Lopez's request because he was being held by Gallatin County at the time and hadn't posted bail. Then Soto Lopez posted bail and renewed his request for a temporary restraining order to prevent the county from jailing him any longer on the immigration hold. But Judge Brown denied the second request, saying it was moot because Soto Lopez had already been turned over to federal immigration officials after posting of the bail. So,
well, we know where this is going.
Yeah, we do.
The Ninth Circuit.
Yeah.
The Ninth Circuit.
Yeah, probably. Well, depending on who's got the money to take it over there. But if the ACLU wants to take it to the Ninth Circuit, they certainly have the money to do that.
Yeah.
And
then onto the Supreme Court to make it a case.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It seems to me if you're breaking them, all the time, local people pick up federal bank robbers and hold them for the feds, to come and get them. So what's the difference in this one? What, because they walked across a border?
Well, the county's breaking the law to protect someone who broke the law. That's sad.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. And our sheriff said, no, I'm not having any of that. And so he says, yeah, I'm going to hold you till ICE comes and gets you. And
exactly.
Go for it. Whether you post bail or not, you're still on the hook to the feds. The misdemeanor here doesn't negate the federal charge against you for coming into the country illegally, and that's breaking the law, whether you think Lopez is here for strictly humanitarian reasons or not.
That's right.
Guy committed well, first of all, he committed one crime when he crossed the border, and now he created another crime while he's here.
And I need to be reminded, a state judge that was elected to this position.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's it. All right, we got to take another quick break. We'll be right back. And no, whatever it is, the stuff.
Don't mention it. Just go.
Yeah, we'll just go. It ain't there.
It ain't there. Yeah, exactly.
All right, we'll be right back. All right, it was 14 minutes for the top of the hour. It's Friday, March 15, 2019, 21 degrees outside. Shane Tobin on the line with me from Vancouver, British Columbia. Tom Eagleoff, your morning mayor. And it's the KMMS Morning Soapbox. And as Shane mentioned earlier, the bill to add a fourth county judge has failed. Senate Bill 203, sponsored by J.P. Pomnikowski, Democrat of Bozeman, which would have added a fourth judge and 3 staff positions. Usually the Supreme Court requests that judges, we have more judges, but in this case, the High Court did not ask for an increase. Instead, they gave Gallatin County its blessings to add an additional judge. So as long as you got the Supreme Court blessing, apparently that's not enough to get a judge. So looks like we're not going to have one because the bill failed. So, and also the timeline has been set for the Law and Justice Center. The county commissioners are going to spend $194,000 on design development and a cost estimate for the building to replace the current Law and Justice Center. And the commissioners hope to use that work to place a bond issue on the November ballot. So we'll see how that plays out. They expect it, if it does pass, it'll be completed by 2020, and it'll include the sheriff's department, municipal courts, victim services, and they'll move the fire station located on Rouse and Mendenhall, or right near Rouse and Mendenhall, down to that new area. So that's going to happen if they get it. They'll use the feedback to update a 2016 plan that took into account the county's projected growth through 2035, and the architects then plan to refine the designs as they continue to solicit feedback from county departments, and they expect to have designs complete enough by July for the contractor, which has yet to be hired, to determine a price for the project. That hasn't even been passed yet by the voters, so they're thinking positive. At least you got to give them that, I guess, huh?
Well, it's other people's money. They're always thinking positive.
I was going to say, yeah, and I am corrected. Bozeman's American Legion was established on this date in 1919, so they are 100 years old today. So congratulations to the American Legion here. They were blown up a few years ago and rebuilt. So
was it really?
Well, yeah, the whole downtown blew up. We lost 5 buildings downtown,
right.
If you remember that, yeah.
Yeah, I know. Now you mentioned, I do remember that.
Yeah,
yeah.
2000.
I didn't know it was one of the buildings.
I don't remember what year, 2007 maybe, somewhere in there.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
somewhere. I don't remember the exact year, but yeah, check out a whole block of businesses, and the Post was in there as well. So, and also the U.S. is moving to lift remaining gray wolf protections. Gray wolves in the U.S. would be stripped of federal protection and subject to hunting and trapping in more states under a proposal released Thursday that declares the predators recovered following a decades-long restoration effort. So the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service wants to revoke the wolves' endangered and threatened species status and put them under authority of state wildlife agencies across the lower 48 states, and the Associated Press reported last week that the proposal was in the works. So we'll see how that plays out, and maybe you'll be hunting wolves this year.
Those nasty Canadian predators.
They are nasty, man. Where do they come from anyway? I don't know how we got them down here.
Alberta and BC.
Yeah, right. It was those Canadians that brought us wolves. Thank you very much. Every farmer and rancher that's lost sheep and cattle and goats and everything else, thank you so much for bringing them down here.
I'm coming in July to bring them home.
Okay, yeah. All right, if you say so.
Okay.
All right, time to pay some bills, but no Noxatril and no Michael Savage. Well, there is Babel in there, so all right. Be careful what you wish for.
That's right.
We'll be right back and babble some more right after this. All right, 6 minutes for the top of the hour. It's Friday, March 15, 2019, 21 degrees outside. Shane and Tobin on the line with me from Vancouver, British Columbia. Tom Eagleoff here. Morning, Mayor, in the studio. And from our text line, Shane, the explosion was in 2009. One woman was tragically killed in that. She went to work, flipped on the light switch.
Wow.
And that did it. There was a gas leak, and normally the smell of gas has a smell added to it so that you know that there's gas in the room. But unfortunately, this had come up through the ground, and the ground had filtered out the smell.
Yeah, and gas is heavy, so it has to, you need a lot for it to rise, and you can smell it too.
Yeah, that too. So. But
one spark though, that's all it takes.
Yep, 2009. So it was. Boy, we shook the whole downtown, blew windows out of blocks away, and cars blowing across the street, and we had the National Guard in here just to direct traffic and kind of keep the area clear so investigators could find out what happened.
And it must have echoed right up the valley. I mean,
I'm sure it did. Yeah. Well, I know later on in the day you could see the smoke rising, almost all day from that area there as they poured water on it, and of course it was this time of year, so it was cold, and it wasn't an ideal time to fight a fire, obviously. But
it's so hard for the fire department to work a fire like that in that temperature.
Well, that's true. They don't have heaters on the hydrants.
That's right.
It's not warm water coming out.
That's right. It's pretty cold.
It's pretty cold. So kudos to them. And I think all of us who were living here at that time remember what a terrible disaster that was, and it could have been a lot more loss of life. Thankfully, it was early in the morning. Unfortunately, one person was killed, but boy, if it had happened, around 10 o'clock or so, and traffic's going back and forth and people are on the sidewalk and everything like that, oh my God, there's no telling how many people would have met their demise in that situation. Yeah, that was really scary. So. But it was rebuilt. I think we still got one area down there that's not rebuilt yet, but most of that block has been restored. And Miles City had a similar situation. They had a big fire up there that took out about 4 buildings on their main street about the same time. It was not too long after that or before that. I don't remember which. But
wow. Yeah,
because I drove up to Miles City. I gave a talk up there, and here they had this nice open place like we had, there. But theirs was nice. Theirs was nice. They had it all graveled, and it was all flat and nice and raked, and it's pretty nice looking place. So I don't know if they. I'm sure they rebuilt as well, but at any rate, we'll see how that. When we come back from the top of the break, we've got to talk about this New Zealand shooting, Shane, obviously. That's that's the big news of the day. Various reports were coming in. At last count, I think at least 49 people were killed and some 40 or more injured, as in 2 instances, no less. And you don't think of New Zealand as being gun country particularly.
It's a Commonwealth country. So they have very restrictive laws, same as England,
Australia.
And so
yeah. I was going to say,
and they only have specialized units in the police that are armed. So most of the police aren't armed. Yeah, well, it's it's probably one of the last places you would expect a attack like that. And certainly on a Muslim community. Wow, that's
you would think so, and and in New Zealand, no less. You would think that would. You don't. I guess there's Muslim communities in virtually every country, probably.
Yes.
But we don't think of New Zealand as being a hotbed of anti-Semitic or anti-Muslim or anti-Arab or whatever.
That's right.
So, kind of
Very,
surprising to everybody down there, I think, and certainly the number of people killed in a mass shooting, that's a pretty good number.
it is for a
Yeah.
country, for just under
Hmm.
5 million people,
Yeah.
and a pretty good economy. Two hundred six billion.
Hmm.
So per capita is around 41,000 a person. So very
Yeah.
expensive though to live there.
Yeah.
Very, very expensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're coming into fall down there because it's on the bottom of the world.
Yeah, they're opposite we are. They've had their summer, and now they're getting ready for their
Right.
winter as we move into our
Yes.
summer. So, all right, that wraps it up for this hour. We come back, 5 things you need to know. We'll talk more about the shooting in New Zealand today and a bunch of other things. So stay tuned for that. Jennifer Bordy's in at 8, and we'll be talking law talk with her and maybe some of these things coming down in Washington, some of these charges against Manafort and some of the other folks. Maybe we can get her insight on that, and we'll find out when we talk to her at 8 o'clock. So stay tuned for that, and Shane and I will be back with 5 things you need to know right after this. 5 minutes after the hour of 7 a.m., it's Friday, March 15, 2019, 21 degrees outside. Shane Matavin on the line with me from Vancouver, British Columbia, and Tom Eagleoff, your morning mayor. And you're listening to the KMMS morning Soapbox. And 5 things you need to know, Shane. Well, of course, the number one story is the killings in New Zealand, the mosque shooting. They got 4 people in custody. One of the purported gunmen is Australian. Dozens more are being treated for gunshot wounds in Christchurch Hospital. Bush said that or out of caution, no one in the country must go to a mosque under any circumstances, and that's Commissioner Mike Bush, not George Bush,
Yeah.
of the he's the New Zealand police commissioner, so just so there's no confusion there. So, but yeah, until they sort this thing all out, it is clear that this can now be described as a terrorist attack. Will be one of New Zealand's darkest days. The county's national security alert system has been raised to high, so this may be an isolated incident, or it might be the first of many, Shane. No way to know.
Yeah. Well, and it's a remarkable job by the New Zealand police. My goodness, they defused a bunch of IEDs found on the vehicles that were driven. I mean, these guys got the job done very quickly.
Yeah.
The sad thing is they shut the entire city down, so all the kids were in school, and they had to stay in school and on a lockdown until they could find these people.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the men that they found or captured was a 28-year-old from Australia. But that's sort of sad,
Yeah.
That's not good, not good. And they posted it live while they were doing it on social media.
Yeah, they put it on Facebook Live while they were shooting people, and Facebook pulled that down pretty quickly once they found it. But yeah, that goes to show you that some of the links these people will go to, and yeah, I don't know. I just don't think of New Zealand as being gun country, or a hotbed of anti-Arab or anti-Muslim or anti-anybody. You always think of New Zealand being a kind of a place you want to go for a vacation or something like that.
Yeah, and 25, 30 years ago, we wouldn't really have gotten the news, but in the 21st century with global news and everything, it's a hotbed story, and they have instant, video and people they're interviewing. I mean, it's pretty remarkable how something like this takes on a, voice of its own in the news cycle. It's pretty amazing. Amazing.
Well, we'll see what happens. As I say, we got 49 people killed, and possibly a lot more are injured or shot. Some may, die from their wounds. No way to tell, but it was quite a mess over there for those poor folks, and we send our best to them. Certainly.
Yeah, indeed. Well, I'm sure a member of the royal family will be visiting shortly, because it is a constitutional monarchy, and the Queen of England is the
head of state.
Head of state there. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, in other news, the Senate on Thursday voted to terminate President Trump's declaration of a national emergency on the southern border. They approved the resolution 59-41. The House voted in favor of the move last month, and the vote is widely seen as an embarrassing rebuke on Trump. But the president said he intends to veto the resolution, the first veto of his presidency, and Trump reportedly worked behind the scenes to earn Republican support on the vote and avoid a high number of defections. But Republican Marco Rubio, Roy Blunt, and Roger Whittaker joined Democrats and 9 other Republicans at the last minute to support the termination. Senator Tom Tillis, Republican in North Carolina, voted against it, despite previously planning to vote for it.
Yeah, and what's really sad is that of the 12 Republicans, Trump either helped them in last year's election, or they got elected on his coattails in 2016. Mike Lee, he went to Utah to campaign for him last year.
Right.
Roy Blunt came in 2016 on his coattails.
Mm-hmm.
Pat Toomey in 2016 from Pennsylvania was in a real tight race.
Right.
And because, in 2016, as you know, your president took Pennsylvania, and Pat barely won re-election there. Roger Wicker, he campaigned for him.
Yeah.
Another one in 2016 that won on his coattails was Rob Portman of Ohio. So Jerry Morgan of Kansas. I mean, these guys were all guys that Trump got elected.
Yeah.
That's what I find amazing.
That's payback, isn't it? Payback's a bitch.
I guess. Yeah.
All right, let's take a phone call. 522-TALK is the number, 522-8255. Calling you on the Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. What's up?
Hey, good morning, Tom. Good morning, Shane. How you guys?
Good.
You're talking about this wolf thing. I just can't help but point out just real irony. What's the name of that park where they're having a problem with the moose overpopulation, so they reintroduce the wolves? Isn't that Isle Royale?
Oh, yeah, they moved some up there, yeah.
Yeah, and I think...
Somewhere up near Michigan, isn't it? The tip of Michigan or somewhere?
Yeah, it is in the state of Michigan. I know that for sure. But the thing I was going to point out regarding that story, number one, apparently, Shane, the American wolves couldn't get the job done. They had to import wolves from Canada.
Yeah.
To help, just like you help us. They had to import Canadian wolves. Because apparently the wolves that were there naturally weren't getting the job done.
Yeah.
But the other things I wanted to point out that's so funny with these, environmental leftists, the state of Michigan for a while now has had a real problem with, the moose is their largest ungulate species, and they've been in decline for years.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't know the exact reason for it. They thought maybe habitat loss or some type of disease, and I think... as far as I know, it's still ongoing research, but isn't it ironic that they couldn't take the moose that were overpopulated in Isle Royale and redistribute them throughout the lower peninsula of Michigan with the population? Because obviously those moose are healthy from a stock that's, so healthy it's overpopulating that area, and they didn't have the foresight nor wisdom to just reintroduce them in the areas that were suitable in the lower peninsula, rather than just reintroduce wolves, to control the overpopulated numbers, because, it's almost to the point where it's a very threatened species in the lower peninsula. And that's habitat where the moose, actually for years, had been a native species that was not common, but, well established in the area. So I just wanted to make that observation. And maybe once again, as far as I know, national park, I believe Isle Royale is a national park. I'm not certain, so don't take me on that. But
it's either national or state. It's either national or state park, maybe. So it could be either one, I guess.
I believe it's national, Tom. And the point I was going to make there is, of course, that's under the Department of the Interior, and most of the rest of it's under the state of Michigan DNR. So maybe that's the problem why they didn't reintroduce. Once again, they can't communicate, work together effectively. But it's just one more example, I think, of the environmental leftists, reacting to a problem, and they contradict themselves constantly, because they're, on one hand, they're trying to establish policies to reintroduce moose in the lower peninsula. Here they have a local resource, but they got more than enough moose. So let's kill those moose off.
Well, I was going to say, why don't you just have a big moose hunt and be done with it?
So many other ways of handling the situation.
Yeah. Well, and
I just wanted to point out the hypocrisy. That's about it. The leftists they just seem to contradict themselves constantly.
Yeah. Well, in consideration of Shane sending us Canadian wolves, I mean, there's just jobs American wolves won't do.
Hey, he's doing his job as ambassador.
That's it, man. He's taking care of us.
Hey, thank you, gentlemen.
All right. Hey, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. All right. Thanks for listening. Yeah. Well, yeah, the wolves, I don't know, wolves in Montana are always going to be a topic of discussion from now till I don't know. Either people are gone or wolves are gone. One of the two.
One of the two.
I don't know.
They do thin the herd, though.
Well, they will do that. That's for sure. They not only kill for food, they kill for fun. So why not? There you go.
There you go.
All right.
So,
Yeah, go ahead.
We're still faced with 5 things to go, and talking about now the 737 MAX. It's sort of important. 376 of these planes have been delivered. 47 airlines to 47 airlines that own them or lease them. They've got 4,500 more to build for 80 more operators. And it's sort of a really tough issue, especially for Southwest Airlines, because they have 31 in their fleet. And they were moving to these planes because they're fuel efficient and so forth. American Airlines 24, Air Canada 23, and Norwegian Air, Fly Dubai, and several Chinese carriers operate them. China has 20. Yeah, so this is a big thing. It is for
Boeing. If this, if they have to junk these planes or keep them grounded for a length of time, that's a bad situation. That's going to happen there. So. But losing 2 of these planes in a matter of weeks does make you a little suspect, that, hey, what's going on here? So they're going to have to...
It's like shutting down a subway system in a major city.
Well, yeah. Well, it is. Yeah, exactly. Well, and also you got the Boeing orders. Are those going to go through, or, who knows? I mean, that could be a monumental stock crash on their part.
Oh, yeah.
So I think they were down slightly today. People aren't reacting too quickly to dump the stock because, because they're, I think most of the investors think they'll ride this out.
Yeah, of course.
Somehow or other, because, the loss of life in the grand scheme of things has been small. And if they can correct whatever is wrong with these planes, then, they can get them up in the air again and whatever. So,
and I have to correct myself. The commercial cost of a MAX 9, $119.2 million. I mispronounced that yesterday. Sorry.
Okay. All right. We got to take a quick break. What do we got here? Now, it looks safe.
Yeah.
Safe break. Safe break coming up. We'll be right back. 22 minutes after the hour. It is 7 o'clock in the morning, 7:22 actually, I guess. Friday, March 15, 2019. 21 degrees outside. Shane Tobin on the line with me from Vancouver, British Columbia. Half everything. And Tom Eagleoff, your morning mayor, in the house. And let's take a quick phone call and see what the callers have to say. Caller, let's try this line. Caller, you are on the morning soapbox. What's up?
Well, let's see. Now, Boeing is about the last, or is the last airplane builder left standing in the United States. It sounds like monopoly capitalism. So if capitalism is such a vital system, why do we keep having these monopolies that arise? And now the too big to fail call is coming out. If we may have to bail them out, why are we propping up these big businesses? Why don't we have fair competition instead of, as we've said before, crony capitalism, where big businesses scratches the back of the political system, and the political system takes the businesses under their wing? It's not working. Capitalism is not that functional of a system. Let's try something different. If you don't want socialism, it doesn't have to be either or.
Stop. Boeing is not the only manufacturer of airplanes in the United States. So, why don't you Wikipedia something or go read something before you come on here and start making very stupid statements like that? AFR Enterprises, Aeronautics Inc., Aerospace Unlimited, Roto FX LLC, L33T Aviation, Ultra Aviation Services, Crystal Avionics, Veritable Aerospace, Additive Manufacturing. I can go on. So please, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry globally. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry that the banks rely on because the amount of capital that circulates on a daily basis. These are things you should go read about before you come on here and start stammering about your opinion. What you're expressing is an opinion. Make it an opinion. Don't don't make comments that aren't true.
Stop. All right. These are tiny businesses. We're talking
They're
about...
not tiny businesses. They're major parts of the U.S. economy.
No, I'm talking about airplane builders that are building these huge transcontinental airlines. You're talking about these little pipsqueak ones.
Wow,
that
pipsqueak.
Around,
yeah, like the tax cut was, crumbs for Americans. Yeah, here, go ahead, keep going.
All right, so check that out. This is the last type of major airline that's left. These are the ones that you're talking about are the little ones that
Boeing has the biggest safety record of any manufacturer in the world. You're less likely to die in an airplane crash than a car crash. What else do you have to say?
I say, why have we drifted over to another monopoly?
It's not a monopoly. You've got a major manufacturer in Europe. The Chinese are now manufacturing airplanes. What else do you have to say? Brazil manufactures airplanes. Canada manufactures commercial airplanes. Go ahead.
Well, sure. That is what I'm trying to say.
No, you're not trying to say anything. You've got an opinion. Express your opinion, but don't make false statements because I'm going to cut you off when you do.
You're being mean.
No, I'm saying express your opinion. Don't make false statements.
Well, the United States has this one monopoly. I'm talking about the United States. Sure, there are other huge airlines, but they're coming from France. They're coming from China. They're coming from other countries.
Wouldn't that be competition?
That's competition, buddy. That means there's no monopoly. You do know the definition of monopoly. It's not a board game, okay? We're not talking about the board game.
Well, if they fail, then everything's left to these other countries to have these
Boeing is not going to fail. Airplane crashes occur The FAA is one of the most robust in the world. They travel all the world. They solve these. They put these planes back together to figure it out.
Yeah, they do.
Oh, well, all right. I'm not going to beat my head against the stone wall. You can have it.
Well, no, you don't want to do that because it's already damaged.
All right. Mean,
That's mean, Shane. That's mean.
Well, no, but come on, Tom. He makes these statements without anything. I mean, it's like
I understand, but all views are welcome here, Shane.
I agree with that.
But
I agree with that.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll go lick my wounds if you go.
Go study the monopoly of Google and Facebook and call back and tell us what you think.
All right.
That'll work.
That'll work.
All right. Thanks, Daniel.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, the Boeing has a good percentage of the market share. We have to admit that.
And safety record.
And safety record. Well, the other ones do too. I mean.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
It's still.
And the only major airline in the world that hasn't had an airplane crash, Qantas.
Yeah.
In the history of the company, from Australia, only major global airline that hasn't had an airplane crash is Qantas.
Mm.
And most of their fleet's made up of Boeing aircraft. So there you go.
Now, well, the other thing we need to think about too is that air travel is the safest form of travel out there.
That's right.
By far. Anything else, I certainly don't feel comfortable sitting in a aluminum cigar box going 600 miles an hour, 35,000 feet above the earth.
That's right.
So
that's right.
But it takes a couple hours after we land for blood to get back in my knuckles.
Everybody feels that way getting on a plane. Of course you do. Yeah. I mean, at least in a bus, you can see the driver.
Yeah. All right. We'll be back. We're working on 5 things you need to know, so stay tuned. We'll be back with more right after this. 24 minutes before the top of the hour. It's Friday, March 15, 2019, 22 degrees outside. Shane Mataman on the line with me from Vancouver, British Columbia. And, well, you got the text lines going, Shane.
Well, I just want to remind I wasn't being nasty, but Daniel's the one who started this. January 30th, 2019 was the one that the day he called me a troll. Okay, so the guy that got nasty first was Daniel, not me.
Okay. Conversation between Shane and Daniel. It was great. Go get him. Frankly, it was good to hear a little pushback when people call with opinions stated as facts. Good for you, Shane. We need a little more pushback on that. The other thing I should mention, if you're thinking of flying in or out of Bozeman, Springer, I should know his first name. Brian Springer is the airport director, and he says we are not aware of any of these aircraft flying any route into or out of Montana. We understand these account for about 1% of the U.S. airline fleet. So as they work through these issues, the impact on connecting flights should also be minimal as well. So at least currently there's no 737 MAXs flying into or out of Montana. So if you're flying to a hub, that may change at the hub, and you can find out what plane or what kind of plane you're going to be on if you're going to be on one. But I think for the most part, most of those planes are grounded right now. So until they determine the issue going on with them. So, but at least it is, if you're flying out of Bozeman or into Bozeman, you will not be flying probably on a 737 MAX, at least according to the airport director. So.
Well, and not only that, but the delays across your country like yesterday were that storm.
Well, we had the what do we have, the what do they call it, the bomb something,
winter bomb
or whatever,
but 75-mile-an-hour winds, like, that's crazy.
I know. Whoa. That's just a day in the park at Livingston.
Well, the UK Parliament was busy on Tuesday this week.
Yes, they were.
They voted to accept a government motion to delay Brexit. This is all in one day, folks.
Yep.
Delay Brexit 412 to 402, and then it's just so amazing because you see what's going on in their Parliament, and it's one of these situations when you're looking at a government situation like this and what they're trying to do. And man, I'll tell you, it's a tough choice when you're in that kind of a situation. What were the other votes? Oh, they voted a narrow margin, 314 to 312. The MPs voted down a cross-party bid for Parliament to seize control of the Brexit process. Oh, that would have gone well.
Yeah.
And then they voted down a second referendum, 334 to 85. That was a margin of 249. So yeah, they just don't know what to do about Brexit. It's quite amazing. You think your government's in a deep freeze? Wow, look at England.
I guess so. Let's take a phone call. 522-TALK is the number, 522-8255. Caller, you're on the Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. What's up?
I, Daniel R. Peterson, never have remember calling Shane a troll.
January 30th you did, sir. I've got it in my notes. I keep every note. I keep all my notes.
Let me finish. Not the kind of language I use, and that's a disadvantage now. They doesn't ask us to say our names. It might have been somebody else's voice, but it's highly unlikely.
It was you. And by the way, you can go download January 30th and listen to yourself.
That's true. Well, we would have it online. So if you want to go listen to the show, it would be online.
January 30th of this year. Well, I challenge anybody to do it. It's not me.
Okay. All right. Hey, thanks for the call back.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about what Daniel's point was. It wasn't so much Boeing, it wasn't so much airplanes or things like that, but it was large companies being bailed out. It was large companies killing the smaller fish, I guess, in the pond. And we hear all the time that there's 5 companies that control everything in the everything in the U.S. That, and 3 or 4 broadcasters control all of the media and social media and everything we hear, see, and speak, except for here, of course, where I think in the 15 years I've been here, I've only been told once something I can't do that I wanted to do. So, but nobody comes walking in here and says, "Okay, Tom, here's the things you're permitted to talk about today." So, I don't think that's going to work. So, let's take another phone call. Caller, you are on the morning soapbox with Tom and Shane. What's up?
My name is Jerry, and I know a guy quite well that's a pilot for the commercial airlines.
Mm-hmm.
And for a while, he did a 3rd row seat in the cockpit that's called an air checkman.
Mm-hmm.
And they look at what and check the person that is flying, the captain, the co-pilot, and then they write reports where they need help or more training or whatever. And he got so frustrated with it because there's lots of pilots that can barely fly the plane, lots of co-pilots that can't fly the plane, and so he went back to just being a pilot. And when he's flying, he makes sure that he does not have to get up during the flight to use the restroom, so that he has to turn the plane over to the co-pilot. So, pretty. I don't fly. That's all I got to say.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for the call. Thanks for the info. Yeah. Well, they got a lot of redundant backup systems and all of that in planes. On Coast to Coast this morning coming in, they were talking about these planes have 5 computers that communicate with each other, and until they get artificial intelligence that will override whatever the computer's doing because it's wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
That's where we're going to be. But most of the other planes have 7 computers that talk to each other, I guess. And the flight recorder records something like 3,000 bits of information about the plane, something like that. So it's more than just what happened in the cockpit. It's got all the instrument readings and all of the hydraulics and all the other stuff, I guess, that go into an airplane. But as I've always said, when I fly, I'm one of the people that I sit in the seat, and I look up at the overhead,
Yeah.
and I'm looking at the rivets in there, and I'm wondering who decided that it should be 10 rivets rather than 12 or 8 or, and who picked the seat cushion color. And what ones did they turn down? And who makes the lights on the walkway? On the bottom, and who paints this thing? What kind of paint do they use? Those are the kinds of things I think about.
Yeah, of course you do. Everybody does.
I don't know.
It's like when you're on a train and you think about riding a train rail and you're thinking about how old the rails are.
Well, yeah, that's pretty scary.
Yeah, it is.
All right, we got to take a quick break. I don't see anything objectionable in this break either, so hang in there. We'll be right back. 10 minutes before the top of the hour. It's Friday, March 15th, 2019. 19 degrees outside. You're on the KMMS Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. And we got a phone caller waiting, Shane. So let's go to the phones. 522-TALK is the number. 522-8255. Caller, you are on the air. What's going on? Hello.
Well, is Daniel trying to jam the line?
Yeah. Nope, I don't think so. All right, from our text line, 478-8298. Never heard Shane so cranky. I know a couple people I can sick him on. There you go. And from our text line, 478-8298. Be nice to Daniel. He's a good guy. So there you are. All right.
All right.
Let's see. The other thing I wanted to point out to folks, if you've got a smartphone and you've got our KMMS app, we've got a new button for you on the KMMS app, and it's right below the when the pictures come up, I guess, and everything. It's got a listen live button, and it's got a call us button, and then it's got a news button, but it's got a new button called Message Us. And all you got to do is click on Message Us, and you'll set up an account real quickly. And all you have to do is go to the KMMS app, hit Message Us, type your message, and boom, you're done. It's that simple.
There you go.
It's a easy peasy thing to do.
Hey.
So if you're on the smartphone, just go to KMMSAM.com or AM 1450 KMMS on your smartphone. I'll get it right in a minute. and do that, and just click on the Message Us button, and you'll come right through to us. And it might be quicker, easier, and faster than the text line.
There you go.
So there you go. We got more ways for you to be heard on the air here at KMMS. All right, we got to take another quick break. We went a little long there with all the conversation, so we'll be right back shortly, right after this. 4 minutes for the top of the hour. We got a caller patiently waiting on the line, Shane. So let's take some phone calls. Caller, you are on the air. What's up?
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
And Shane, who let the dogs out? Woof, woof, woof.
There you go. I love it.
Yes, and we love it. Thanks.
All right, thanks for the call. I think. I think.
That was terrific.
You think you like that, huh?
I like that. Roop, roop.
Yeah. Well, our poll question of the day, should the new high school be named after Travis Atkins, Travis W. Atkins, I should say, the posthumous Medal of Honor winner, Bozeman High graduate. And right now, we just have a few votes in, but it's 50-50, yes and no. So if you want to vote on that, go over to KMMSAM.com or go over to AM 1450 KMMS on your smartphone and vote in today's poll question. Should the new high school be named Travis W. Atkins High School? And we'll see how that poll turns out during the day and let you know the results on Monday. So when we're back, so we'll see how that plays out. So I think it's a good idea. I think it's well thought out and would make it easy. So.
Well, you're the righteous eagle man, Mayor.
Yeah, well, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But when somebody suggested it, I thought it was a pretty good idea. So that's where we are. So
there you are.
All right, and hey, don't forget, we've got a new button on our smartphones, the KMMS app. Go over to the KMMS app, and you'll see a new button there called Message Us. And all you got to do is click on that, set up a quick account, and you can just hit that button and send us a direct message here. And might be a little easier than doing the text thing for some people, because I know some people get confused as to whether they're making a call or sending a text. It's not a call line; it's a text line. So in this case, you can either call us, and it'll direct you right to the to the phone number, or you can get us by message. So improvements all the time. And we're also on Alexa. We're on Google Home or Apple Home or whatever the home thing is that you can listen to us on that. One of those things you say, hey, go get Tom and Shane. And it'll pull it up for you. So. But, yeah, we're getting awful progressive and electronic here at KMMS, so I don't know. It's pretty scary. Got to find all these ways to contact us, which is good. We want to hear from you. And I know there's a lot of people that aren't comfortable talking on the air, so the text line or the message line is an ideal way for you to express yourself and let us know what you're thinking, and, we'll be happy to entertain those thoughts on the air. So it's a pretty good deal. Right, Shane?
Indeed, sir.
Yeah,
Facebook resignations. We're not going to have time to talk about them, but it affected the stock.
Well, it certainly did. Dropped it somewhat. So, yeah. Let's see from our text line. I think Shane should be getting paid. Hey, don't give him any ideas.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think you should be getting paid too, but unfortunately, you know where we work, so that ain't gonna happen. At least not anytime soon.
There you
All
are.
right, coming up at 8 o'clock, Jennifer Bordy joins us, and we'll be talking about who knows what. Whatever she's got on her mind, we'll be chatting about it. So, all right, hey, don't forget, hey, we're only 11 likes away from having 1,000 Facebook likes on our Facebook page.
Wow.
11. Come on, folks. Everybody out there, if you're not on Facebook, you know somebody who is, go over to facebook.com/KMMSAM and like our page. Let's crack that 1,000 mark on Facebook likes.
On the weekend.
That's right.
And
Let's
download.
That's right. Get that done. And don't forget, all of our shows are online, KMMSAM.com. Click on Tom and Shane's podcast, and you can get all of our past shows right there since last February. We'll be right back. 5 minutes after the hour of 8 o'clock, it's Friday, March 15th, 2019, 20 degrees outside. Shane Talbot on the line with me from Vancouver, British Columbia. Tom Eagleoff, your morning mayor. And the law babe is in the house. The lovely and talented Jennifer Bordy is here. And glad to see you.
Glad to be seen. A little on the sick side. I meant to bring in some cough drops just to keep my throat.
Oh,
not dry.
Don't breathe on me then.
Yeah, sorry about that. No more kisses for you.
Okay. Well, I hope the wife's not listening to that.
Yeah.
From our text line, real quick, Jennifer, before we get into you, we were talking about our poll question: would the Travis Atkins be a good name for the new high school? And we got a text here. Has anybody asked Travis' parents regarding the high school? Would they like that or not? Or, so to my knowledge, I don't know. I don't know if anybody has talked to them or if anybody has mentioned it to them. I don't know.
Travis's dad is an attorney or was an attorney. I think he's retired.
I would pick the Travis W. Atkins Warriors over the West Slope dopers, I guess, any day. So there you are.
I was a Warrior in junior high.
Were you? You were Wilson?
Indian Hills.
Oh, Indian Hills.
No, Shawnee Mission, Kansas.
Oh, okay. I'm sure that's not there anymore. It's not politically correct,
Actually,
is it?
I have driven by several times to see if they've changed the name yet, and they have not.
They haven't changed it yet.
But I'm sure it's coming eventually.
Probably will. So, let's see. I don't have any more texts. So, what's our topics today? What do you got on your plate?
Well, we have a couple of things to look at that happened this week that are definitely of interest. One of the ones I found most interesting, and I think that so will everybody else out there, is that some of the families of the Sandy Hook victims and one survivor of the Sandy Hook massacre that occurred, if you recall, in Connecticut some... how many years ago now?
It's been a few, at least
four or five,
yeah.
But at any rate, and it was right before Christmas. It was horrible. I mean, let's face it, it was horrible.
Little kids.
6 and 7 year olds, I think 19 or 20, 6 and 7 year olds, 6 adults. The gun, the shooter's mother, he had killed her before he went and shot up the school. Horrible, horrible, horrible situation. And some of those families, and one person that survived as well, has sued Remington for a whole slew of things.
The gun manufacturer.
Yes, the gun manufacturer. Sorry. So, and there has long been, well, maybe not long, but since about 2005, there's been an act in Congress that shielded gun manufacturers from liability for, I think, just about any kind of lawsuit anybody could bring. So these families brought this lawsuit in Connecticut State Court. And yesterday or the day before, very recently, sometime this week, the Connecticut Supreme Court ruled that they could bring at least one of those causes of actions against Remington, despite the federal shield from liability that Congress enacted some time ago. And the cause of action that they said that they could bring had to do with false advertising. So interesting, huh?
That's an interesting way to go after it.
Well, maybe not false advertising. That probably wasn't the right word. But the Connecticut Supreme Court said they could maintain their lawsuit in state court because they marketed the weapon based on its militaristic appeal. I'm not 100% sure what that means, but they felt that the advertising campaign was targeting high-risk users, and they were courting high-risk users, such as people with mental problems and probably felons and or criminals, all at the expense of American safety. So they have allowed the lawsuit to go forward. They clearly said that it's up to a jury to decide whether or not Remington crossed that line. But honestly, I think at some point this is probably going to reach the U.S. Supreme Court, and the U.S. Supreme Court is going to say, no, the federal mandate against liability for firearms manufacturers also barred this suit.
I was going to say, because otherwise I could go down and sue McDonald's and Domino's because I'm fat.
You could. You can try. Anybody can try.
Well,
but the thing about
I don't
this
know if
lawsuit
I don't know if
is,
they have the same shield law, though.
it now gets to proceed.
Yeah.
I don't think, I could be wrong, though. I don't think that, I already forgot, Remington.
Well,
I'm having trouble today.
The context for our listeners, Sandy Hook was December 14, 2012, and the reference is the Protection of Law, Commerce, and Arms Act, the PLCAA, enacted in 2005. The long title, an act to prohibit civil liability actions from being brought or continued against manufacturers, distributors, dealers, or importers of firearms or ammunition for damages, injunctive, or other relief resulting from the misuse of their products by others.
Very good. Yep, that's it. And so, although it's longer ago than I thought, 2012.
15 USC 7901 to 7903. There you are.
What I was about to say, though, is that Remington, I don't think, they might try, but they might try to appeal directly to the U.S. Supreme Court from this. But the likelihood is what's going to happen is it's going to go back. There's going to be a trial and all that first. And ultimately, it would have to make its way through the state courts. And then you can appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. So I don't think the U.S. Supreme Court would take an appeal from them at this time. But I could be wrong because it might be of enough import of an issue that they would want to do that because it's, in essence, contrary to federal law.
It seems kind of far-fetched because, boy, the manufacturer could be on the hook for every suicide, every accidental shooting, every...
And that's why Congress passed that law.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they were trying to prevent.
Yeah, from our text lines, a similar argument to what I just made. Could people killed by a drunk driver sue the car manufacturer or the alcohol manufacturer, because they ran over somebody?
I don't think they've yet
there's no
sued
shield
the alcohol
law.
manufactures, but they can sue the bartenders and the bars.
Dram shop,
and of course
dram shop laws. Yeah, sure.
If certain specific circumstances are met. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so what the question would be now is whether federal courts can be allowed to intervene with state law, because what the Connecticut Supreme Court has said is that this can be maintained on a state law basis. And so, that will be an interesting issue, and perhaps the Supreme Court will take it up now. I doubt it. I think it's going to have to make its way back through the Connecticut courts. There'll be a trial. Mm-hmm. There'll be, who knows, probably a judgment, I'm guessing, probably a judgment against Remington, but we'll see. It also depends on their level of proof. It's hard to imagine that you could actually prove, or that they actually would try to market something to attract people that should not have those kinds of weapons.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned before a military something that they advertised. Remington said something
on a militaristic appeal. That's
militaristic appeal. You would think, okay, you got people with PTSD, you got people with what they used to call shell shock, I guess, which is, PTSD.
I'm the first to say I don't know what their advertising has been for that. I've never seen any.
If you're a military person, you need this weapon because it's like you used in combat or something like that. I don't know.
The other problem that they will have in this particular case, too, is because I believe the weapon was his mother's, not his. Mm. And so how far are you going to go to say that if somebody that doesn't have those kinds of issues buys the weapon, that it might be available to someone who does?
Yeah.
So it's a long shot even in state court, but I'm just kind of predicting here what I see as the outcome. But again, they might try to appeal it right now to the U.S. Supreme Court, and they may or may not take it. I don't think they will.
Okay, you're the...
Well, let's remind everybody that Remington settled the case back in March 13, 2017, a class action case about a trigger mechanism in one of their guns. So,
but that's different. That's a different kind of case.
The point is, Remington does admit to faults and does resolve these and doesn't just challenge them solidly. Which is good. It shows their good intentions. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. That's all.
But that is sort of like an action, a class action, even if you will, against the car manufacturer because something,
like
the back latch of their vans doesn't work and kids can fly out the back, which is what happened.
Yeah.
But so that's fixing a product that did have a defective problem.
Right. Yeah. You got things like that. So.
So it's going to be interesting to watch is the main thing. And they were very, very specific to say, though, that this lawsuit does not affect Second Amendment rights, although, of course, and I don't think the NRA has actually said anything yet about this. They will, I'm sure, but
probably, yeah.
They haven't.
Now, if you're on, let's say you're prosecuting Remington.
I'm the lawyer that's brought the complaint, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want a jury to hear about these dead kids, or do you want the judge to decide?
Of course. and they will.
I was going to say.
If I'm the one that brought the complaint, absolutely, I want a jury to hear about dead kids.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. So,
I mean,
but the Supreme Court
hurt me to say that.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but I don't think the Supreme Court is going to be swayed by dead kids. I don't know. Maybe they will, maybe they won't.
Well, that's not the issue. The issue
it
is
isn't,
whether
or
not
that would be
federal law can preempt even state court causes of action.
But you as a prosecutor would bring that issue in as part of the act.
Well, you keep saying prosecutor, which technically is correct even in a civil case, but it's generally connected to a criminal case.
Yeah, that's true. Well, see, that's how much I know about the law.
Well, actually, yes. The plaintiff is a prosecutor, whether it's a civil or a criminal case, but it's generally only used in connection with criminal cases. Yeah. So one of the things I also wanted to mention, though, is if the U.S. Supreme Court did take it now, because they have tended to reject state law claims that were barred by federal law. And I think that's what's going to happen here ultimately. It's just the question is, when will we get there? And one of the reasons they may take the case is sort of like what's called a writ of supervisory control in a state. If somebody in a trial court, something happens that just going through the whole process and appealing really isn't a good enough remedy, then sometimes the Supreme Court will exercise supervisory control and say, okay, you really can't do that now. And if the Supreme Court feels like, why make Remington go through all of that before we hear the case, then they might take it now.
Okay. Let's take a quick phone call, then we got to take a break. Caller, you are on the air with Jennifer Bordy. What's going on?
Hi, this is Aaron. How you guys doing?
Good.
Good. So the Supreme Court incorporated several of the Bill of Rights to the states, the First Amendment.
All of them.
Not what's that?
All of the amendments have been incorporated.
Not the second. The second wasn't incorporated to the states. And I was kind of wondering why.
Through the 14th Amendment, they weren't all. I think they all were, but I could be wrong. I guess I've never seen a case that said it wasn't or was.
Yeah, it's weird. The Second Amendment, the only one that says blanket, there's a blanket ban on infringing the rights. The First Amendment says Congress shall not do stuff. The Second Amendment says the right of the people to own and bear arms shall not be infringed. It doesn't limit just to Congress. So it seems like the only one that is incorporatable would be the second, but they didn't incorporate it to the states, and I'm just...
Well, there's also a difference between those amendments that have been incorporated into the states, as you say, but also that states are not able to adopt anything that gives you less rights than the federal Constitution, no matter whether it's contained in the Bill of Rights or the Constitution itself. So, yes, and some states have passed gun control laws that are pretty strict, and as some cities had, like D.C.
And would be considered contrary to right to bear arms being infringed.
Right, which the U.S. Supreme Court decided you can't, even if something hasn't been incorporated into the states, like the Second Amendment, whereas like in D.C. versus Heller, they overrode a District of Columbia ordinance that forbid you from having loaded firearms or put together firearms even in your own home. So...
And don't you find it kind of weird that, like, even the licensing laws, like for concealed carry, in Montana, if you have a concealed carry permit, but you go fly to New York and you have your gun and you try to conceal carry there, that license isn't, it doesn't transfer. You go to jail. And the odd thing about it is that gay marriage, they said, well, that our laws have to be uniform across the board, but these gun laws, they're not.
Well, that's true. The gun laws are not uniform across the board, and there have been some attempts that states should recognize other states' concealed weapons permits, but that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
So you're right in terms
Jennifer.
of there's not full faith and credit given to certain things between the
Right.
states.
Driver's
All right.
licenses and things like that, obviously.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for the call. All right, we got to take a quick break. We'll discuss more of this when we come back.
Okay.
So hang on. All right, 24 minutes after the top of the hour. It is, it's Friday. Finally Friday, March 15th, the Ides of March, 2019. 20 degrees outside. Shane McDowell on the line with me from Vancouver, British Columbia. Tom Eagleoff, your morning mayor in the house. And Shane and the law babe in the house. Jennifer Bordy, thanks for being here. And you were talking about your school name being Warriors from our text line.
Well,
Warrior.
the school name was Indian Hills.
Oh,
but
right.
our mascot
You were
was
a warrior, though.
Yes,
You were,
I was a warrior.
You were a warrior, okay.
I still have a button from back then.
Well, there you go. Well, the caller or the texter makes the point, Warriors isn't always about Native Americans. A soldier in combat as a warrior or a single parent working multiple jobs to keep the family going would be considered a warrior as well. And then talking about our debate with Remington, can abortion implement companies be sued by women for causing them and the aborted baby pain and suffering?
Can they sue? Anybody can go file a lawsuit. Can they win? No.
Probably. I was going to say probably.
On several levels, but unfortunately being that most states don't recognize a fetus as
Yeah,
capable
as a
of
human
bringing
being.
a claim.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so there you
At
go.
any rate, the other thing I wanted to say is, as we were on the topic of my junior high being Indian Hills, our newspaper was called The Smoke Signal. Hey, I was editor, by the way.
Man, you are
they're in trouble.
You are about as politically incorrect as anyone I've ever met. Oh my gosh.
Junior high was actually the best years of school. I loved junior high. I had a ball. But anyway, okay.
All right. Onward and upward. What's next?
Okay, next we have to talk about something to follow up.
Yeah.
What we talked about a couple weeks ago, which of course is President Trump's emergency declaration that what's happening at the southern border constitutes an emergency so that he can draw money from other places to build the wall. And a couple of weeks ago, the House voted, not surprisingly, to, in essence, override that declaration of an emergency. And then the Senate had to do the same, which it did do this week. It voted, I believe, 59 to, was it 59? I think it was.
I think it was 59.
Yeah. 59 in favor of, so there were 12 Republican senators that voted with the full Democratic core.
Yeah, Shane ran through them earlier, that how many of them were elected because of Trump. You know, he went and campaigned for them, or they were in states that were, maroon or whatever. So,
well,
but anyway, they jumped ship. In other words, so.
They did jump ship, and then the interesting thing is, so now that's got to go to President Trump's own desk for his signature, and/or he is expected to veto it, of course. All right, so what happens if he vetoes it? That's one of the things we want to look at here.
Right.
And I also want to talk a little bit more than we did a couple of weeks ago about some of the cases that have led up to this, if you will. No, I'm sorry. That is when we talk about Trump being sued.
Right, yeah.
We're going to get to that
one, too. It's so
one,
hard to keep them straight, isn't it?
It is. I've never, ever in all these years of doing Law Talk spent so much time talking about a president. But here we are. Okay. So as far as when he vetoes, which he will veto this bill, if you will, then what happens? Well, to override the veto, now there is where he probably is going to be safe and secure, because it takes 2/3 of both the House and the Senate to override the veto. And while I don't think that'll even happen in the House, to tell you the truth, that would be 290 votes required in the House, and in the Senate, 67 votes. And so 12 Republican senators, you would need a whole nother 8, and it's not going to happen. So that the likelihood that his veto will be overridden, and of course something we'll watch in the weeks to come. And I apologize that I mixed up my Trump cases.
It's all right.
But really, that's all I have to say about what happened with
hard to keep them straight. So
it is.
So I don't know if there's anything about moving money around in the government. Obviously there's
there's still the lawsuits too. By the way,
well, that's
not
true.
just that, not just Congress overriding his declaration of an emergency.
Yeah.
But I will say this. I don't think he sees it that way, because he's got a lot of confidence, and he knows that he can prevail by not getting the necessary votes to override his veto.
Right.
But it is a little bit of a slap in the face to him.
Yeah. Well, to some extent, particularly when you have that many Republicans jumping ship, it doesn't bode well for his leadership in the Senate.
But ultimately, he'll prevail on that. In that respect, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
But then he does have some lawsuits to contend with.
That's true. All right. Well, we got more with Jennifer coming up next, so stay tuned. A lot more from the Law Babe yet to come. So we'll be right back after these important words. Well, the law won't win if you've got Jennifer Bordy, the law babe, defending you. You are out free and clear, baby. Right?
I got to think about that one. Also, after the week I had, the couple of weeks I've had, I'm not so sure that's remotely true.
Valid info.
I think, actually, is the law winning even if it's not justice?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, all right.
Well,
we can debate that one later.
Well, California, Gavin Newsom claims they're putting 20% of people innocent to death, so they stopped the death penalty.
20%? That's high.
Well,
there are,
I don't know if it's 20%.
without a doubt, some innocent people.
Yeah, probably.
As we all know, being convicted. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah, I don't know if it's that high, but anyway.
All right.
He gave out a number, whatever.
Yeah. It might be like 2 to 3%.
Probably.
It better not be 20%. Then there's something really wrong with the system.
I was going to say, yeah.
Holy cow.
Let's see what the callers have to say. 522-TALK is the number. Caller, you are on the Soapbox with Jennifer Bordy. What's up?
Well, hello there, Jennifer Bordy.
Hello.
And Shane and Tom.
Hey.
You only have eyes for me, Pete.
Speaking of moving money around,
yeah,
and I touched on that the other day with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have any problem with that unless it's Trump, I guess. But right here in Montana, what did they do? They took money from the Pittman-Robertson Act, which is a tax on fishing gear and hunting gear and guns and whatever, to enhance wildlife. They took $60 million, and what did they do with the $60 million? They introduced wolves into Yellowstone and the surrounding areas. Now, that's fine, I guess, if the wolves were the indigenous wolf that was here. But they weren't. The indigenous wolf was the timber wolf. They introduced the Canadian gray wolf. Much bigger, different deal, bigger animal. So if I went and put a rainbow trout in a creek and, that didn't have those rainbow trout weren't indigenous to that creek, I'd go to jail.
Well, you're right when you said that, but you also have to appreciate that has happened with fish. The government has done that where they have put non-native species in sometimes. Yeah. But they've also tried to rebuild native species.
Well, we had to have Canadian wolves, Pete, because there's jobs American wolves just won't do.
Well, you know what? You're probably right. But the thing is, they
cost 30% less.
Yeah, that's true. There you are.
Well, they break the law. They broke the law when they took the money.
Well, actually, I don't think so, because I think that part of that tax is specifically earmarked for environmental. I don't want to say causes. That's not what I mean, but action.
Well, it certainly wasn't earmarked to
enhance and
introduce a non-indigenous. It wasn't earmarked to introduce a non-indigenous species.
Yeah, I wonder if anybody brought that lawsuit, though, would they be able to successfully argue the distinction between introducing a native wolf species versus a non-native wolf species? I don't really know the answer to that. I'm just questioning whether that would have been a successful argument.
Well, the gray wolf is definitely a larger animal.
So,
than the timber wolf.
And certainly it did result in lawsuits anyway. A lot of ranchers banded together to say, you can't do that. It's going to hurt our livestock.
Yeah.
Which was true.
They did it.
They lost the lawsuit.
Yeah, right.
So.
But as far as moving money around all over the place, and like I said, I touched on it the other day, they don't have no problem with that. I mean, in the case of Obama and Fannie and Freddie, they didn't steal money from Fannie and Freddie. They took it from the creditors. That money was to be paid out to them, the people who invested. They just took their money.
And I think you're right. As a practical matter, it does happen all the time. But I also am going to freely admit that's one of the things I have least understood about government is that there is money earmarked for specific things, and you can only use it for certain things, at least theoretically. And so sometimes when they say there's no money for, say, school safety and we have to have a new bond for that, that sort of defies logic to me. But that's what they say, at least.
I think the federal government defies logic in all areas.
I'm going to agree with you on that one as well.
Well, you folks have a good day.
All right. Hey, thanks, Pete. From our text line regarding the Trump situation, Mitch McConnell.
Which one?
Well, the wall, the emergency act. Mitch McConnell is not a leader. He always has been a anti-Trumper. He's totally fine with open borders. So I don't know if he's fine with open borders, but
so there's open border Republicans as well as open border Democrats.
I guess apparently.
Interesting.
So,
I'm not sure I quite agree with that, but
well,
anyway,
we'll see. Anyway.
All right. So our president has some other problems
he's got
going
some other
on here.
lawsuits going,
Yes,
doesn't he?
he's got another lawsuit, and I'm sorry, but echoes of Bill Clinton.
Yep.
Yes, absolutely. All right. So this week in New York, a state court held that a state court case against Trump can proceed by a former Apprentice contestant who claims that Trump sexually harassed her, unwanted sexual advances, which is actually not the substance of the lawsuit, but Trump denied that, called her a liar during the campaign before he was president, and she is suing him for defamation.
Ah, okay.
God, that's got to be a hard one to win.
Well, it has to be because you got to have witnesses and recordings or something.
That it actually happened. Because she's going to have to prove
his,
that truth, because truth would be a defense.
Well, it's sort of
defamation.
It's like one against the other, unless you got a dress with a stain on it.
So this, of course, has echoes of Bill Clinton, and the only slight difference, which could be a major difference, but I don't think it's going to be, is this was brought in state court. Now, when President Clinton was president, that didn't come out right.
Yeah.
When Bill Clinton was president, there we go.
Yeah.
He got sued by Paula Jones for unwanted sexual advances. He was sued for sexual harassment that occurred while he was governor. So he wasn't yet president, but she didn't sue until he was president. And then she sued in federal court. The issue was which she probably had to do because he was. No, she didn't. I guess she could have sued in Arkansas State Court, even though he was president, because it's the same with Trump. Even though he's president, now lives in Washington, D.C. He's really a New York resident. So that's why she brought it in New York State Court. But at any rate, Paula Jones brought hers in federal court, and the U.S. Supreme Court said, yes, you can sue a sitting president in federal court for acts not related to his official duties as president.
Okay. We got to take a quick break. We'll be right back. KMMS is Tom. Yeah.
Hello.
Okay. Okay, we're in a short break right now, about 2 minutes. I'm going to put you on hold, but you can talk to Shane while you're on hold. All right, hang on. There you go.
Hello, hello.
I want to talk about the Wolves again. So, Wolves are always
yes,
an
sir.
issue here, but.
The brainworm?
Actually, I really do have an opinion. I don't think a court would have seen the distinction between introducing a non-native species of war.
I don't think so either.
It's actually an interesting argument worth making.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say if you
I don't know if
you
I don't think that's what the register.
Yeah, it's called Nemer. It's called Nemer tea.
Yeah, I left the mics open, so sue me.
Really? Can we say anything we shouldn't have?
For a couple minutes. We never say anything we shouldn't say. Yeah, right. All right. We have a caller. We have a caller waiting on the line that's been brainwashed by Shane. So let's take a call. Caller, you are on the air. What's going on?
Yeah, I wanted to weigh in on the wolf.
Sure.
On this wolf subject.
Yeah.
These wolves came in and they carry a parasite. It's a roundworm called a nematode worm. And basically, when an elk or a moose or a deer is grazing next to a wolf feces, they ingest this worm through their nose, and it goes up into the brain. A lot of people call it brain worm, and it kills them. And the people that let these wolves go never even bothered to worm them or check them for parasites. So not only did they introduce a parasite that can kill humans also if you hit this with your lawnmower, you hit a wolf feces with your lawnmower.
How often does that happen?
Just depends on where you live.
Anyway, not only did they introduce a parasite worm to the ecosystem, but when I was a boy growing up an immigrant, we saw timber wolves, and they were here, and they were a smaller wolf.
Mm-hmm.
And so they degraded a complete species of wolves by doing what they did. So anyway, it's disheartening that the government just does what they want just because the liberals push them in that direction.
There you go. Hey, thanks for the call.
Anyway, nematode worm, look it up.
Okay, we'll do. All right, thanks. Well, we got to do the rush update. Sorry, but
I don't get to talk anymore about the.
You will when we come back. We'll have about 5 minutes
lawsuit.
when we come back. So.
Okay.
All right, so we'll do that. All right, here's Rush. All right, 4 minutes before the top of the hour, Jennifer Bordy's in the house, a law babe, and let's finish up with final thoughts on today's topics. And
well, I did want to say this about the lawsuit by the former Apprentice participant against President Trump. And President Trump did try to make the argument Bill Clinton did, which was you can't sue a sitting president at all.
Yeah.
And that is going to be rejected. Now the only distinction is there going to be a difference between whether you can sue in state court versus federal court? The likelihood is no, there will not be. But I did want to also emphasize it sort of started back with Nixon, of course. And I think the case was Nixon versus Fitzgerald, where the U.S. Supreme Court did hold that a president has absolute immunity for any of his official duties performed while in office. But and so Clinton tried to take that a step further. But of course, he hadn't been in office at the time that the conduct Paula Jones complained of occurred. And that's the same with President Trump. He was not in office at the time of any of the conduct that is being talked about. He was running for president. I don't think that's going to be a meaningful distinction to the courts at all. So at any rate, that's the issue he's going to be facing, and it's been really an interesting line of cases, like decades apart in each case. You know, Nixon was back in the early 70s, and then we skipped to the 90s for the Clinton case, and now it's 20 years later, and we have a Trump case that eventually I think will probably make its way to the U.S. Supreme Court, and they're probably going to just say the same thing, which is, yes, you can sue him in state court. That's not a distinction worthy of note. So, but again, it's another case to be watching, and we'll just see. But she's got a hard, she's really going to have trouble proving that. She's got a double burden of proof here because she has to prove that it's not true, that he did defame her by saying that what she claimed were lies. So it's going to be a heavy burden for her to overcome. He may very well win at a trial.
Yeah. From our text line, we were talking earlier about wolves and brainworms. Brainworm sounds like an affliction of the Democrat Party. So I don't know. I don't know if they're wolves around the White House. I don't know. I guess we'll. I don't know. Well, hey, thanks for coming in, Jennifer. I appreciate it as always.
Thanks for having
me. And good information as usual. And well, it'll be interesting to see how all these things play out if Mueller ever comes forth with anything. You know?
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing, which I think is going to be very similar to the Whitewater investigation by a special prosecutor against the Clintons.
Yeah.
Which, although, you know, it's been a relatively short period of time. People don't realize Whitewater went on for years, 4 or 5 at least.
Yeah, it was a long time.
And this one's only been a year since he was appointed. But we keep thinking it's coming any day. It hasn't come yet.
Well, as I say, Shane thinks that Biden won't get in until the Mueller comes out because it may point to him and Obama.
Well, I don't think nobody does.
Yeah.
Nobody thinks it's really going to show the collusion that was what was being investigated. But hey, that's what you have an investigation for. It may show something. It may not.
There you go.
You investigated. That's
why we do it. Say goodbye, Shane.
Have a great weekend, Mayor. Thanks for coming, Jennifer. And as always, everyone, be happy, be safe.
All right. Thanks, buddy, for being here. And thanks, Jennifer, for taking the time. Always appreciate you coming in and enlightening us on the legal stuff going on in our world. All right. That wraps it up for Shane and myself. Thanks, Jennifer, for being here. And, hey, we'll see everybody bright and early, 6 a.m. on Monday morning. So have a safe weekend, and we'll talk to you then.